And now, live from beautiful and exciting Las Vegas, one of the most influential talk show hosts in America, radio icon Alan Stock.
And a good morning. Great to have you with us on this Thursday morning. I want to get right to it because there's a lot to talk about today. Coming up in a few moments, Randy Sutton will be joining us right now. I do want to say good morning to John Lott from the Crime Prevention Research Center, an expert when it comes to stats on guns and what goes on in this country. And John, once again, I thank you for being with me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, it's always great to talk to you, Alan.
All right, I asked you to come on and talk to me because yesterday in the RJ, I saw this article, our local newspaper, and it was about a study published by Every Town for Gun Safety. I think that's Michael Bloomberg's group. And Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. Every Town and Moms, God, and Apple Pie. Boy, I'm telling you, just threw a few more words in there and have been great. But anyway, 79 children have unintentionally shot someone with a handgun during the first 4 months of 2015. 79 children have unintentionally shot someone with a handgun during the first 4 months and resulted in 24 deaths and 56 injuries. And the experts are saying, they put here, the only way to prevent such tragedies to happen, oh my gosh, is to not have a gun in the home. Tell me about this kind of heresy.
Right. Well, when you go through this, I mean, these are initial news reports that they have, often relatively little information. It's all guns. It's not just handguns. And there's issues here. So, like, they'll mention that some 2-year-old supposedly was able to fire a semi-automatic handgun and was able to go and put the magazine into the gun and cock it. And you kind of wonder whether a child really has the strength to go and do those things. One of the things that you don't know, for example, is that if an adult fired a gun, whether they would go and blame a child for that afterwards. You also don't know whether these are gang households or other types of problems that occur there. There's almost no information on this. And there are mistakes also in terms of this. When you read the stories, some of the things that Bloomberg's groups, they're both Bloomberg groups, have there, they're listed as a fatality. And you're reading the story, and you have to look at other stories too. It's pretty clear that there weren't fatalities in some of the cases that they were having. Look, there's a reason why you don't want to make these types of analysis based upon purely initial news reports. When police go through and look at these things and file their final report, they're going to have a lot more information about what happened. If you take the Centers for Disease Control reports, for example, in the entire nation, for all ages, there were about 505 accidental gunshots in 2013. That's from hunting. A relatively large number of those are from hunting. It's all ages across the whole country. Look, it'd be best if that 505 were zero. But what you find is that a good portion of those are accidental shots by criminals, particularly those involving kids. They don't fit kind of the standard narrative where you think a child is getting a hold of a gun and accidentally firing. And a lot of times it's an adult male. Many times has alcohol or drug-related issues. A large percentage of them have violent criminal records. And so, those types of statistics, unless you kind of put it in context here of the rate of accidental gunshots in the home compared to almost any other item, it gives... these are not largely law-abiding households where you're having these problems. I'm not saying you don't have those at all, but it's hard to think of many other items in Americans' homes that are as commonly owned as guns are when you consider the fact that there are about 120 million Americans that own guns that have as low of accidental death rates associated with them as you have with guns. And
you're right. They don't differentiate between criminal households, non-criminal households. They don't accidents. And by the way, they kind of pushed to the back about how many deaths, 24 deaths, 56 injuries. So it's 24 have been killed, but they have the figure of 79 unintentionally shot. And by the way, they do use the word handgun here. That's what they're saying. I want to talk about a couple of things after traffic. One is what they say it's important to recognize is that most people want a handgun for home protection. But we have to recognize they say the home's a relatively safe place. There are fewer than 30% burglaries in the U.S. occur when someone's at home. Now, I happen to think that's a large number, but they play that down. And then I also want to talk about, and I know you do also, this AB 148, because right now it looks like while this right to carry on campus has passed the assembly here in the state of Nevada, it may not get out of committee in the state Senate. So I want to talk about that in just a moment. If you'd stay with me. .621 at News Talk 720 KDWN. I'm Alan Stock, and a good morning. Randy Sutton joining us in just a few moments. Right now, we're talking with John Lott. John, of course, with the Crime Prevention Research Center, author of More Guns, Less Crime. And my go-to expert when it comes to issues about stats on guns and gun crime. And John, thanks again for being with us this morning. I want to get to this one other issue, then we'll talk about what's going on here in Nevada. But in this particular article that they had in the RJ yesterday, which was sent to them from Bloomberg's group, they say the main reason people have guns in a home is protection, typically against stranger violence. However, it's important to recognize the home is a relatively safe place from strangers. Fewer than 30% of burglaries in the U.S. occur when someone is at home. And I'm thinking to myself, 30%, 29%, that's a lot of people and a lot of numbers and a bigger number than they want to present.
Right. Look, there's a reason why people are rarely in the house when burglars happen in the United States, and that is the burglars are worried about being shot. And if one were to go and follow the types of advice that Bloomberg's groups have put out here, you'd have burglary rates and home invasions while the people are in the home, similar to Britain, for example. Britain has twice the burglary rate that the United States has. But even worse, about 60% of the burglaries occur while the residents are in the home.
Wow.
And when surveys have done on American burglars and British burglars, they ask, how much time do you spend casing a home before you break in? American burglars spend about twice as long. And the reason why they give for why they spend so much longer than their British counterparts is because they're worried about being shot. And this is true across many different countries. You find a very strong correlation between the rate at which people are in the home when the burglary occurs and whether or not there's gun ownership in those countries.
And in England, they they almost assume that almost no one has a gun because you're not supposed to, so they feel pretty confident to go on in and invade the home to burglarize it. And here, we're not so sure because we're a bunch of gun nuts and people have gun. You don't know who's got a gun, so you think twice about it. Interesting. Right. Let's talk about what's going on here in Nevada. I know there are a couple of bills. I did get a call yesterday from Amanda Collins' father to talk about this, and that is AB 148 campus carry. It has passed the assembly, and now it's being held up in a Senate committee. I've got a call in right now to State Senator Greg Brower to try to get him on Monday to see if we can chat with him why he won't bring this out of committee. He says because the state Senate is not of mind to pass something like this. But my friend Chuck Muth has actually tabbed this as an anti-rapist bill, and these people are afraid to come out and support an anti-rapist bill, which is allowing one to carry a firearm on a campus to protect themselves.
Right. Well, my understanding is that the bill passed in the Senate in 2011, and that
right.
It apparently has more votes now than it had at that time. The big change, I guess, seems to be State Senator Michael Roberson.
Yes.
Roberson, who's the Nevada Senate Majority Leader. Apparently, the claim is that he told Brower to not to bring the bill up. So if people want to kind of let their voices be known, I guess the Senate Majority Leader from Henderson, maybe they want to give his office a call. But look, you look at all these mass public shootings that we have, and criminals just in general try to pick areas where they know victims aren't able to go and defend themselves. If let's say you had somebody stalking somebody, God forbid, would you put a sign up in front of your home that said your home was a gun-free zone? My guess is no one would do that. And the reason is because rather than the criminal saying, geez, I can't go in there because I'm not allowed to take my gun in there, it actually would be an invitation for them to go in there because they would know that their victims would be less able to go and protect themselves. It's the same reason we just had this discussion about burglaries. Where are burglars going to go? Are they going to go into places where they think victims might be able to go and defend themselves, or are they go into places where they don't believe they can? And, you look at all these mass public shootings in the United States since at least 1950, and with just two exceptions, they all have taken place in areas where general citizens aren't allowed to go and protect themselves. We have a trial going on in Colorado right now for the Batman movie theater shooter.
Right.
In that case, you had 7 movie theaters showing the premiere of the movie that were within a 20-minute drive of the killer's apartment. Only one of those posted signs banning permanent concealed handguns.
And that's the one. That's the one he chose.
Right. He didn't go to the one that was closest to his home or the one that had the largest auditoriums in the state. You look at mall shooting after mall shooting, and I can go through those. They keep on occurring, not at the closest one to the killer's where he lived, sometimes the farthest one away, but the one common denominator is that they keep occurring in the places where it's posted that permit holders aren't allowed to have guns for protection. And so I guess it's just a basic question of where are criminals going to attack one, and then the second issue is what's the safest course of action. And so what you find is that if police are extremely important. My research shows that police are the single most important factor for reducing crime. But if you're going to have to deal with a criminal with a police officer not being there to protect you, the issue is what's the safest course of action? And it turns out having a gun is by far the safest course of action. People often say, well, you should behave passively. There's a kernel of truth to it, but it's very misleading. If you compare passive behavior to all forms of active resistance lumped together, passive behavior is slightly safer. But when you break down the different types of active resistance, you find that, for example, for women who behave passively are 2.4 times more likely to be seriously injured from a criminal attack than a woman who has a gun.
I didn't know that. That I did not know. Listen, I'm up against the clock. I appreciate you taking time to join me this morning. I'm going to give out the numbers in a few moments of the office numbers of Greg Brower and Michael Roberson, have people try to get in touch with them to see what we can accomplish here over the next week, because I understand a week from this Friday, week from tomorrow, is the drop dead date on this. So, John Lott, thank you so much for being with us. John Lott, you can find him at John Lott. Just crimeresearch.org, at crimeresearch.org. But, as far as calling legislators, you should call the one that you live in the district for. They don't care too much if you live outside. So the state majority leader from Henderson is probably the one that people in your area should be calling. I would agree with you.
Thank you.
John, thank you for being with me. I appreciate it. We'll do it again. All right. John Lott joining us. And that number for Michael Roberson this is the number up in Carson City. And that number is 775-684-1481, 775-684-1481. All right, so as Lib John said yesterday, a man shot by Metro cop was armed but running away. Another shooting by the cops. Randy Sutton here to talk about it. I'm sure Liberal John will join us as well. All that more after news, traffic, and weather on News Talk 720, KDWN, KDON.